If you look at what has created the bad international economic situation, I'm afraid, again, it's the United States. It's very simple. The claim by the United States is that the real problems in the world economy at the present time are due to the Ukraine war. But it's very, very easy to show that this is just not true. This is absolutely pure propaganda, because this inflation already started long before the Ukraine war took place. If we look at what caused this inflation, it's quite clear that it was caused in the United States. What is it? It's because the United States embarked upon an extraordinary stimulus program, a totally disastrous stimulus program. It increased its money supply by 26% in a year. It increased its government borrowing by 26% in a year. It had no increase in net investment. Once you take depreciation into account, US capital expenditure today is actually lower than it was at the beginning of the pandemic. So you had no supply side increase at all, but you had a massive consumer stimulus, that is a pure demand side of the economy. And you only have to study economics for about a week to know that if you have a huge increase in demand and you have no increase in supply, then you're going to get very rapid price rises. That's what caused this inflationary wave, then spread from the United States throughout the whole world. In addition to the directly economic consequences, we may say that the policies in the United States have created chaos, the Cold War ones. For example, the effects of tariffs and the attacks on Chinese companies, for example, Huawei. Now, this has had a negative consequence in the West, because it means that everybody in the West, in the countries in which Huawei has been cut out of the telecommunications system by the United States, is paying higher prices for their telecommunications, and 5G is being introduced more slowly. Now, this is the exact opposite of what you need. If you've got high inflation, what you should be doing is everything which will keep the inflation down, not something which will put the inflation up further. Now, that's the thing which China sees most clearly. The situation in Europe is certainly the worst since World War II, because it's got the combination of two factors. It's got very, very high inflation, very low growth, and a major war. This is not merely the economic consequence of the US, but it's Cold War policies. Make a contrast to this to Asia, where you've got the exact opposite. What the developing countries have agreed on is they're not going to go along with the type of chaos which the United States has created in Europe. The United States has also, for many years, been trying to create a chaos in the South China Sea. I know this because I've spoken at conferences in the West. I'm invited to come and speak on the crisis in the South China Sea. And I always explain, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there's not going to be a crisis in the South China Sea, which is contrary to what the Western media is writing, because the countries there don't want one. They're getting on with peaceful economic development. I just hope very much, and I think will be the case, that the Asian countries will continue to resist. If we take the last decade, China's research and development, which is the key really to increasing productivity and high value, has been growing at about 11% a year. And the US has been growing at 4% a year. That means China's R&D expenditure has been growing almost 3 times as fast as the United States. Secondly, however, China's got a decisive advantage over the United States. We know that innovation sustained by research and development is the key to upgrading. But sometimes people forget that they think that innovation can be a good idea. If you've got a good idea, therefore the economy will grow. Well, it's not true. Because innovation has got to be embodied in new productive processes, new machineries, new systems of organization, new logistics. This takes massive capital investment. If you just have an idea and you don't embody it in a new productive process, the economy is not going to grow. If you take capital creation, that is total savings by companies, households, etc., it's about, on the latest data, about 6.6 trillion in China, and $3.8 trillion in the United States. That is, China's advantage is already 70% higher than the United States. This means China has got an unparalleled ability to take this research and development and this innovation and turn it into new productive processes, new equipment, etc. This is why you're beginning to see China overtaking the United States in certain high technology fields. Between 2021 and 2027, output in GDP in the developed countries is going to grow by about $14 trillion. But in the developing countries, it's going to grow by $22 trillion. China by 2035 is going to find itself in a different situation compared to the global south than it is today. Already, China is technologically ahead of most global south countries, but by 2035, it's going to be very much more ahead. Then you can have the situation which is sometimes referred to in Asia as flying geese situation. That is, one economy grows more technologically advanced than the others follows. China is in a key position to be the leading country from the point of view of technology and development, from the point of view of the whole of the global south. And this is very important